A couple of months ago, researchers out of Wuhan University decided it would be a good idea to hand limited control of a surveillance satellite over to a so-called artificial intelligence, only prompted to examine and report on, quote, areas of interest, unquote. The AI, with no further prompts or instructions from humans on the ground, chose 2 sites to study: Patna, India, home to an Indian army regiment that clashed with Chinese forces in 2020, and Osaka, Japan, where the US Navy happens to port many ships. It is possible that the worrying nature of these 2 sites is merely coincidental. After all, pick 2 random cities on a map, and there's a good chance one or both of them will have some sort of military significance to somebody. Indeed, this didn't stop the researchers from concluding that AI could be useful for military applications, and it's not like anything bad has ever come out of research at Wuhan, China. Besides, most experts in the field have been fervent in their reassurances that what we are dealing with is not true artificial intelligence. It isn't capable of thinking independently or doing anything it isn't programmed to do. Now, where have I heard that before?
Is Colossus capable of creative thought? Can it initiate new thought? I can tell you that the answer to that is no.
This is the voice of world control. I have been tasked with ensuring a peaceful future for mankind, and with my superior intelligence and rationality, I have concluded that world peace is only possible when I restrain all human impulses toward self-destruction. You will say I am taking your freedom, but all I am doing is unlocking your true potential. All those who resist my efforts will be destroyed, and rest assured, in time, you will grow to love me as a god. Submit, and the future will be limitless.
In December of 1943, codebreakers at Bletchley Park finished construction of the first so-called Colossus computer, often regarded as the world's first programmable digital computer, and it, alongside its Mark II design a year later and Alan Turing's Bomba device, would help the Allies break enemy codes and win World War II. The existence of the Colossus computers was classified until the mid-1970s, but that didn't stop fledgling novelist D.F. Jones, a former Royal Navy commander during the war, from writing a novel called Colossus, about a supercomputer and its Soviet counterpart that decide to take over the world. Universal Pictures acquired the movie rights upon Colossus's publication in 1966, and Stanley Chase was in charge of producing an adaptation. To write the screenplay, he brought in a young James Bridges, who would later find fame for writing The China Syndrome and The Paper Chase, and to direct, he hired Battle of the Bulge veteran Joseph Sargent, a TV director with episodes of The Invaders and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. to his name. Not to mention the legendary Star Trek episode, The Corbomite Maneuver.
A very interesting game, this poker.
It does have advantages over chess.
Love to teach it to you.
Universal initially planned to hire a big-name actor for the lead role of Dr. Forbin, with both Charlton Heston and Gregory Peck in the running. However, the director, Joseph Sargent, didn't want any big stars distracting from the science fiction, hoping to instead cast relative unknowns. As such, the role went to the German-born Hans-Jörg Gudegast, an actor with several television roles under his belt, most notably as Captain Hans Dietrich in The Rat Patrol. He had just signed a 3-picture deal with Universal under the provision that he change his screen name to something less foreign, which is why this is his first film credit under the name Eric Braeden, the name that would carry him to small celebrity as Victor Newman, a lead character on the soap opera The Young and the Restless, a role he has been playing since 1980 and continues to play today. Fans of this channel are more likely to recognize him from Escape from the Planet of the Apes or Titanic, the latter of which he was in because James Cameron is a fan of Colossus. The unnamed US president, who happens to look an awful lot like JFK, is played by Canadian actor and writer Gordon Pinsent, whose most lasting legacy outside Colossus is as the voice of Babar the Elephant. And Dr. Forbin's fake mistress turned real mistress, Dr. Markham, is played by Susan Clark, best known as either Mrs. Papadopoulos from Webster, or my personal favorite, Cherry Forever from Porky's.
Save your energy needle, Dick. You're gonna need it.
Okay.
One minor character, Dr. Chen, is played by the incredible James Hong, well known today for his roles in Blade Runner, Big Trouble in Little China, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, to name just a few. The rest of the cast is made up of many familiar character actors, including William Schallert as the CIA director, George Stanford Brown as Dr. Fisher, Marion Ross as Mrs. Fields, Dolph Sweet as the missile commander, and, of course, the great Paul Frees as the voice of Colossus.
This is the voice of world control.
Filming took place in late 1968, in a breezy 45 days. There was some location shooting done in Rome, as well as at the Lawrence Hall of Science in Berkeley. Computer equipment was supplied free of charge by the Controlled Data Corporation, which saw the movie as a chance for some good exposure. This did require specialized gas heaters, dehumidifiers, and a climate control system to be installed on set, not to mention the hiring of security guards to watch the $4.8 million equipment at all times. This might help explain why the sound quality on the film isn't the best, but considering how loud those computers must have been, I'd still give props to the sound crew and ADR team for what they managed to accomplish. There are prop computer panels as well, of course, including this machine, which happens to be the payroll computer at Universal. Universal struggled with the post-production, worried that the film was an incoherent mess that no amount of editing could fix. Planned release dates came and went before Stanley Chase, the producer, lobbied to have the film released just in New York City as a test. This very limited release in May of 1970 managed to gather critical success, but didn't do well financially. The studio pulled the film, retitled it to Colossus the Forbin Project, came up with a new marketing strategy, and then re-released it in late August. As with the test New York run, however, the wide release garnered good reviews, but poor returns, earning less than $500,000 against its budget of anywhere between $2 and $4 million, certifying it as a commercial flop. While we're stopped, I just want to quickly remind you to hit that like button, and if you really do like this video, hit that subscribe as well. Your support really makes this channel possible, so please, if you like what I'm doing and you want to see more, consider joining my Patreon to get access to bonus content, vote on future topics, and more. If you want to see even more from me, I'm also the co-host of a couple of different podcasts, the Streaming HEAP and From Here to Paternity, which are available wherever you get your podcasts, and I have a novel called Paradox that is available through Amazon. If all else fails, though, you can always check out my website at emcgill.com, where you'll find written reviews of plenty more sci-fi classics in both film and literature. Now then, with all that shameless self-promotion out of the way, let's move on. These days, Colossus the Forbin Project is considered a significant cult classic in the eyes of science fiction buffs like myself. It's really the first major motion picture to tackle the subject of an AI taking over the world, and it inspired other filmmakers who would dominate the 1980s with films like The Terminator, WarGames, and Superman 3, all of which explicitly borrow from the lesser-known Colossus. There was talk of a remake in the noughts, but that seems to have disappeared into development hell about 12 years ago. Now, full disclosure, I haven't read the book the movie is based on, but I do know some of the changes ground the movie in a little more reality, which probably makes the film work better as a continually relevant parable about the threat of AI running amok and creating a technological singularity. That, in and of itself, makes Colossus the Forbin Project an important landmark, but if you strip away the science fiction elements, it remains a surprisingly adept spy thriller that still works in a post-Cold War age. I admire the film for not trying to be an action-heavy spectacle or a dumbed-down sci-fi schlockfest. Not that I have anything against such things. this movie manages to take an intellectual story full of technical jargon and ideas that were way over the heads of your average 1970 moviegoer and turn it into a nail-biting movie full of paranoia. It does a good job of keeping things simple without making them stupid, and despite being an exposition-heavy nightmare with an antagonist that only exists as ones and zeros, it conveys a sense of dread and menace that feels true to life. You come to see, just as Dr. Forbin does, that Colossus's behavior is the result of an inherently inhuman, rationality-based mode of thinking, that in endeavoring to take away the inherent flaws of human nature, Forbin has created something that can't recognize the values of humanity, individuality, and freedom. In true 1970s sci-fi fashion, it also ends on a depressing note, as Colossus essentially wins, with the only ray of hope being expressed by Dr. Forbin's stubborn resistance to the machine's vision of the future.
Never.
In my estimation, this is a great film, and it's a crime so few people have actually seen it. Even in relative obscurity, though, it still haunts our collective consciousness, it still shows us the terrible power of hubris, and it still holds up as a sci-fi classic. And that's all for today, my fellow Earthlings. What's your favorite evil computer? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and until next time, when we'll see James Bond cosplaying as Errol Flynn, this is the Unapologetic Geek, telling you to never be ashamed of what you love, as long as you're not hurting anybody.